Yo, this is Teresa Weatherspoon, better known as Teaspoon, and you're watching Real Fans, Real Talk.
Live from the can. Vibe the can.
This is Real Fans, Real Talk. Real fans, real talk. We as real as you thought. Real fans.
What's going on? Welcome to another live edition of Real Fans, Real Talk. It's Trip Young. We are back. We got some things we got to speak about because some things went down in the sports world. So we're gonna talk some talk today. Some major moves have been going on in basketball. Free agent frenzy is still in effect. Some boxing things going on right now. The WNBA is in full effect. But before we get into all of that, let me shout out my brother, my co-host, Eric Sanchez, a.k.a. Legend in Two Games. What's going on?
It's really good, bro. You know what time it is, man. We got a lot to get into. Boxing. We got a good fight this week as well that, if people want to know, we could talk about that. But a great trade in the NFL recently. A lot of NBA stuff going on. And we are approaching All-Star break with Major League Baseball.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Shout out to the to all the ladies that made it to the WNBA All-Star team as well. Couple of Liberty up there on that roster too. So big shout out to Brianna Stewart and Sabrina Ionescu. Of course, Caitlin Clark also made the roster. Asia Wilson, Skylar Diggins made the team, and shout out to Angel Reese, who's been on a little bit of a tear lately. We ain't been speaking about Angel Reese, but she's been on a tear as of late. But let me jump into these questions here. Big shout out to all the supporters. I see I got questions coming through, so I'm gonna go right in. Let me get this. Oh my goodness. You know what? We're gonna start off messy just for y'all because you know what? Shout out to Ron because Ron's the first in the comments today. He want to talk about the Diddy trial and get it out the way. So all right, if that's what y'all want, we will talk Diddy. Okay, no Diddy. Or Diddy, no Diddy. All right, whatever. Let's get into it. All right. So talk to Diddy verdict before y'all get to the sports. Diddy was found not guilty on all but 2 accounts, I think it was.
Three of the five charges he was found not guilty on.
Yeah.
The major charges he was found not guilty on.
Yeah, but I think they saying it wasn't a RICO, it was a FRICO. I think
it was definitely a FRICO. Pause. we knew that. But yeah, he avoided some of the major charges.
Yeah, but I mean, here's the thing, right? Again, now the trial is over, so we can speak on a little bit more. I honestly, and Eric, with me because doing the whole documentary, working with Gene and whatnot. One thing I always respect about Gene is he ain't out here just kicking untruths out on Diddy. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's one thing. He did say Diddy was a little freak, was freaked buying butt plugs and things of that nature. He did say that. But as far as the sex trafficking goes and whatnot, those charges, I thought that was ridiculous. I didn't think they were going to get Diddy on those charges. And again, because a lot of the stuff is like, with the feds, like they're trying to go to the most technical of the technicalities of the law with that. And it's like, come on, bro. You mean to tell me I can't fly my lady out to do some things with her that might be grown and sexy? I can't do that. That's against the law. It's like, come on, y'all reaching. And the stuff that maybe y'all should be trying to get that man on, y'all blew y'all opportunity if that was the case, because all of these charges, like I said, all it says to me is freaky ball. That's it. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't say we should get this man 50 years for that.
Nah, I 1000% agree. It's one of the things that I talked about on Wednesday's live, and I've been saying since we kind of knew the evidence, because Trip, you and I spoke with Gene when the indictment first came down, and there wasn't really enough evidence to make a kind of a judgment on how you thought it would go. Because when they throw out federal charges like RICO, you assume that there's going to be a lot of evidence and there's going to be overwhelming evidence to support that. That accusation. And there was never any of that. And when we started seeing some of the evidence they came out with, I said early on, I thought they try to play this out through the media. They try to hype up the theory of all the baby oil and all these sex tapes they found in the house, and who could have been part of these freak offs. And they never were really proving that there was a RICO. They were just proving that he was freaky. But again, is that anything different than what we've known for 20 some odd years? These are stories that have been told about Diddy for a very long time. So I don't think that surprised anybody. I think this was more about, tarnishing his name, a smear campaign against him for whatever reason, whatever conspiracy people want to dig up. That's really what it came down to. And I've stood on this post for a little bit and this point for a little bit when I said I've never heard of in the history of America. There's never in the history of the RICO, I should say, because the RICO's only been around for almost 45 years.
Yeah,
there's never been a one-man RICO. So if this was a RICO, who were his co-defendants? Who were the other people part of this criminal organization? And the federal government never proved that. They never made an effort to show you, hey, this is a criminal organization and he sits at the top of it and these are the people that are underneath him. It was just, he did this, he did this, he did this. And like we talked about, was he a freak? Yeah. I mean, I think we knew that and they proved that. Is he an asshole? Yeah, but I think we knew that a long time ago too.
Yeah.
Did he physically abuse Cassie? Absolutely. We saw that. But none of those things is what he was on trial for. And again, this was a poor job by the federal government, again, to tarnish his name as opposed to go after real legitimate charges. Yeah,
because, excuse me, you have people kind of rallying behind Diddy now. Because it's like, listen, see, one thing about us in the culture, you didn't really, when R. Kelly was going through his situation, you didn't have people rallying behind R. Kelly because the charges that they were bringing him up on, was actually some valid stuff. It wasn't no smear campaign. It wasn't like, oh, we just want to, tarnish this man's reputation. It was no, you out here wilding, Kels, and we not supporting that. But in this situation, the one thing, and this is why, when you say, it's a smear campaign, Eric, I agree with you 1,000% because it's just like, all right, well, we know what the video was. You putting out that, with Cassie, you're putting out video of an assault that is past the statute of limitations. So the only reason to do that would be to tarnish someone's reputation if he can't be prosecuted for that.
Yep, that's all it was. And then even with the release of the video, it was done again to create this storm of public opinion against it. Right? There were a lot of people who already didn't like him. There were a lot of people who already were going to feel like, he's an asshole, part of my language, right? But when you put out the tape, you create this narrative, and like I say, you're playing the trial out through the media. That's why I say, think about how they kept emphasizing all the baby oil that was found at the house. Then not only was it done, but then when we get to trial, we find out they completely exaggerated the stuff they found at the house.
Yeah.
Right? We heard all this talk about videotapes and all these freak offs were taped, and yet when they get to trial, we never hear about who's on these tapes or what took place on these tapes. So it's like I said, they played it out through the media to get people to sway a certain direction with their opinion, but those weren't facts. And I said this on Wednesday, the one thing that this case did was divide men and women, because women were viewing it from the standpoint of how they felt about Diddy. Oh, he's wrong, he abused Cassie, look what he put her through, right? I'm not disputing that. Men were looking at it from the lens of, but what are the facts? Because if you're a black or brown man in America, you know that it's very difficult for you to get an honest day in court. So men were looking at it from the perspective of whether we weren't celebrating Diddy, we weren't defending Diddy. We were just looking at it. We were just looking at it from the standpoint of what are the facts? Because if you're telling me it's a RICO and I'm facing 50 years in jail, you better have some damning facts against me. And there was no facts.
Yeah, because again, the problem is, see, when you throw that video of the assault on Cassie out first, in people's minds, because most people aren't aware that there is such a thing as statute of limitations. After a while, certain crimes you cannot be charged for anymore. But in people's minds, we saw how brutal that assault was. And again, I don't want to take anything away from that because we both agreed, Eric, that was a horrendous sight. No one likes seeing that. But the problem is when you throw that out there first, you have a bunch of people that, again, don't understand the concept of a statute of limitations. He's not on trial for physically assaulting Cassie. It's not a domestic violence case. It's not any of that. But people still have in their mind, well, he beat Cassie ass and he need to go down for that. And you know what I mean? But again, that is not what the man was on trial for. And I think that's where the feds ruin that. Was it 92% conviction?
92,
They like
right?
they like to throw out there every once in a while. Y'all messed up the numbers on that.
And I'm surprised, right? There were people early on who immediately assumed he was going to be guilty before all the evidence came out. But his lawyers have petitioned to get this thrown out very early because, again, there was never any evidence of a RICO.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key statement that needs to be made in this. He was on trial for a RICO, for running a criminal organization. There was never any proof of that. Was there proof that there was a lot of freaky ish going on? Yeah, there was a lot of freaky ish going on. Was there proof of prostitution? Yeah, because that's what he was convicted of. You look at the two charges, he was convicted of prostitution, which is exactly what he did. He was paying Jane Doe, who we know to be 50's baby mother, he was paying her to engage in sexual acts. That is prostitution.
Plus all the males that came to the
plus the males, right. But again, we when they throw out words like sex trafficking, right? The human mind immediately assumes, oh man, there might have been kids involved. There's women being held against their will. Then we get to court. We find out none of that to be true.
We always go to the worst possible scenario in our mind.
Right. And that's why I said they played it out through the media for that reason. Because it triggered, those were trigger words. They triggered emotion
and
from people. Work. Right. They triggered emotion and it didn't work. And then when they got to court and then you see that the evidence or the lack of evidence, then those that were in the courtroom who were reporting on it, because there were plenty of people that I was watching reporting on it day to day who kept saying, there's not enough evidence here for what they're trying to accuse him of.
Yes. Yeah. And that's the problem. Shout out to Imani. She always on to check in with us. She says, I think Puffy should do some prison time, and I believe he will get 1 to maybe 2 years. I mean, if that's the case, it's probably just going to be time served. If they do wind up doing 1 to 2 years. The other thing with that is, and here's the thing, right? If it's something personal that somebody has against Diddy, and we see the judge say, all right, well, because there's a maximum number of years. Let's say we're gonna give Diddy 10 years for those 2 convictions. Then it's like, all right, that's gonna make people feel even more, that this is like some vendetta y'all got just to get Diddy. So it's a tough one. We still have to wait to see what the judge is gonna say, because again, although Diddy was proven guilty, it's not the jury that determines how much time.
They go back to court in October. By the time they go back for sentencing in October, he would have already served a little over a year. I think a year and 2 months by that point. So we're looking at 14 months he would have served. It's possible, again, if they ultimately say, oh, it's a 2-year sentence, all right, he already got a year served. He'll have to finish out that other year. But I get the impression his lawyers are going to fight hard because, again, they denied bail after the verdict, which was a little surprising as well, because to say he's a flight risk on a prostitution charge is a little crazy.
It's crazy, right? Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like what the prosecution is trying to insinuate and what the actual results are 2 different things. Like you're saying he's a flight risk and he's a menace to the community. I mean, he's been a menace to the community for a long time. But I don't think we should be holding somebody on a prostitution charge more than a few months. I mean, let's call it what it is.
That's crazy because he's been in jail this whole time, and it's like, right, now it's down. We done got this thing down. Everything is been not guilty except for 2 prostitution charges. It's like, all right, come on now.
Right.
Let the man come on now. Like let's stop. Let's stop with the bull. I'm all for if you do the crime, you got to do the time. I'm all for that, but at the same time, from where we from, if you done did it and you can do these things, we can't just be like, all right, well, you did this 2-3 years ago, so now let's give you 20 years for that, and you're not even on trial for that. Like that's just not how the legal system works. So let me go to Imani's next question. She says, let me ask y'all, how do y'all feel about casting now that it's over? All right, let me first and foremost say this again. We are very much so against any type of domestic violence, any type of sexual assault, any type of predatory acts of that nature. We are completely against. Now, the other part to that is I do feel like, Cassie was a part of the Freako. She was down with a lot of the stuff. Now, whether or not it was a situation where she was trying to come up and Diddy could help with the career or whatever the case may be, I do feel like she was down with a lot of the stuff that was going on. And obviously we saw a lot of that from the testimony, from watching the interviews with the gentlemen that were a part of the freak offs and whatnot. So I feel like part of that is, this is Cassie putting herself in a situation to where she feels like she can advance her career by going from a Ryan Leslie to a huge step up in Diddy and the power that he has in the industry. So there's that aspect of it. I feel like she was right down in the mix, getting it in with all of the freak offs and whatnot. But I do feel like they had an abusive relationship, and that's obvious because we saw the video in the hotel hallway. But do I feel like Cassie is completely or should be completely absolved from everything that has went on over, I guess, the past 10, 15 years? I don't remember how long they started messing with each other. But no, I don't feel like she's completely innocent in all of this. I think she played a role. And listen, she was compensated for, anything else. But yeah, she played a role in it. She's not completely absolved. I'm sorry.
I'm conflicted when it comes to Cassie because one, I don't condone domestic violence and abuse, and she was a victim of that. But she was also an opportunist. And as you mentioned, Trip, it doesn't just stop with the initial, she dated Ryan Leslie and then went to Puff, right? Mm-hmm. If you listen to the testimony of Kid Cudi, she got Kid Cudi wrapped up in all this because there's always been jokes about, Diddy blowing up his car. But Kid Cudi testified that Cassie lied to both of them initially because Cassie told Kid Cudi it was over with Puff. And then when Puff confronts Kid Cudi, he finds out that they were still actively dating. Right, it was not over at all. They were still actively dating, and the instance that everybody talks about, the blowing up of the car, Kid Cudi said himself that he didn't realize Cassie was the one who gave Puff his address. Yeah. So that plays a factor in it. Obviously, she leaves Puff for their personal trainer, who becomes her husband now. Also, one of the things I mentioned on Wednesday, no matter how you feel about Puff, and no matter how you feel about the abuse that Cassie sustained, is evident, right? It's obvious she was a victim of the abuse, but she never sought out justice for the abuse. She went straight for a civil suit. Mm-hmm. So she never asked the federal government to bring up charges on Puff. She never asked for justice for what she had to endure. She took the payday. She made a choice. So if we're going to call it, let's call it like it is. She made a choice to say, I'd rather have the money than to seek justice for what was done to me. I also wonder if she was granted some sort of immunity, because if you listen to some of her testimony, if you read the transcripts, she indicts herself. She talks about, as you said, being the one who initiated some of these freak offs. Mm-hmm.
All the prostitutes, right? Them coming in. She's a big part of all of that.
Right. There are text messages where she initiates conversations with Puff saying, I can't wait for the next freak off. I can't wait to what. Yeah. And she's initiating these conversations. Mm-hmm. Also, she on the stand talked about how when they would be out in LA and, she felt like, hey, at some point we're going to have a freak off. She was the one who was actually going to pick up drugs for the freak off. Yeah. So she, like I said, indicted herself and somehow was never brought up as a co-defendant, which leads me to believe she got some sort of immunity, and which also leads me to believe why she never seeked out criminal charges against Puff, because she knew had she gone that route, she would be incriminating herself. Mm-hmm. So that's why I say I'm conflicted on it. She is a victim of the abuse, and I feel for her in that way. But I also think she was an opportunist in other ways, like you said, to not only advance her career, but then also realizing, hey, why put him in jail when I can get the check off it? Yeah. And she did the same thing when the video came out, the hotel video, and it was later discovered how Puff got the video. She sued the hotel for like another $10 million as well. So she got a pretty hefty payday for everything and all her involvement.
Exactly. Listen, everybody, just want to let y'all know we started off in the messy section today because it was a special request by my main man, Ron Charles, who was the first in the chat. We're going to get into the basketball talk in just a minute, but we got a couple of more questions while we're talking about the Freako. All right, so just hang tight for a second, and let's run through these questions, and then we're going to get to the basketball stuff. Imani Williams says, I wonder why Puff just don't come out as gay. All right. So in regards to that, I mean, at this point, it doesn't really matter because you cannot, as a heterosexual man, you cannot justify rubbing another man's man juice on your nipples. There's no way around that. So that is no, you can't go back. Now, the most you could do is you might be in the bisexual category, which personally I don't know about. Men being in the bisexual category, but that's about as far as Diddy can go and be in the bisexual category because that's nasty as a mug. And yeah, there ain't no coming back from rubbing another man's juices on your nipples. I'm sorry. He don't have to come out. Everybody knows what's up at this point.
I was going to say, I think everybody knows at this point. And if he comes out at this point, I mean, he might very well, because of all the stuff that's out. But keep in mind, Amani, a lot of these music execs who are gay will never come out for fear of backlash and fear how people will perceive them. Clive Davis for a long time never came out, even though there was an accusation about him being gay. And Clive Davis waited till he was damn near 70 before he came out of the closet and said something. DJ Mr. C's, who plenty of times was accused and even arrested of being with trans men, right? When he solicited prostitution from a trans man, denied it, damn near until he passed away. So a lot of them fear the backlash. Is easy now. Granted, society's much more forgiving now, much more understanding now. So if Puff were to come out gay, I don't think it would be as crazy as like let's say if he did it 25 years ago. But they're worried about the perception and will people want to work with them and how will overall it affect the business.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're gonna say. I mean, listen, it's not like this ain't the 40s or the, you know what I mean? Like we in 2025, so damn everything is accepted at this point. So it's not like he's gonna have to like you got to be in hiding if you're
right.
A homosexual or part of the LGBT community. It's a different time. So
and at the same time, though, I'll say this though. I mean, does he really need to come out? Like at the end of the day, that's his business, though, right?
No, that's his. I mean,
yeah, like
he don't have to come out.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like
after what we just saw, it don't even matter what you say.
No, of course. Yeah, the evidence is already there. You know what I'm saying? The evidence is already there.
Personal business. If he's gay, straight, lesbian, whatever he is, whatever he identify as, that's that man's personal business. That ain't got nothing to do with nothing.
Right.
All right. So it is what it is. Shout out to Janetta Johnson. She says, Trip and Eric, if you judge, what would you give Puffy in terms of prison time? I give him time served, honestly. He paid some chick. Listen, man, not chicks. He paid some guys to come in, and he's a cuckold. Okay, but Diddy is what you call a cuckold. He likes to watch his lady be pleased by other men. So that was really what I got from this charge, from this whole case. What he was convicted of, what he wasn't convicted of. So I'm not one who's for just saying, well, we saw you whooping Cassie's ass on that video, which is past the statute of limitations, but I don't care about that. I still want to give you 10 years. That's not how the legal system works. And if we want to say we're supposed to be trusting in the legal system to handle the process the right way, then we can't just be like, all right, yeah, I think he should get 30 years because I know he did this. I saw him beat her up. I know what happened with Big. I know that, and we want to just lump in every bad thing we think Puff may have did over the past 40 years and say we're just going to throw jail time in for all of that. And that's not how this thing works. So based off of the facts and what we saw from this trial, I would be okay with Puff having time served.
I think the only right answer is time served. In most cases, prostitution is a low-grade misdemeanor. You get probation for it. You pay a fine for it. The fact that they dragged this out the way they did, I think should be treated as time served.
Yeah. It is what it is, bro. That's it. We can't just be making up stuff just for our own because we feel like something should go down.
Yeah.
All right, and let me see. Janetta says, I remember y'all both had Gene Deal on. I wonder how he feels, and how do y'all feel about Gene now that this case is over? Should Gene have kept his mouth shut on some ish? Well, one, Gene, his whole issue was not with Diddy being a freak or doing any type of sexual like. The only time Gene has ever really spoken on the stuff from the trial is if he's been in an interview and someone asked him about that stuff. But if you guys have watched Raw Deal, The Last Big Night, nothing in Raw Deal, the last big night that Gene spoke about is about anything dealing with the Freako, the Rico, sex trafficking, or anything like that. Gene don't even speak on none of that stuff. This what Gene speaks on his basis is the fact that Puff's arrogance led to the death of Biggie Smalls. That's Gene's main thing. So no, Gene don't have to. He shouldn't shut his mouth on nothing. Gene can keep speaking because that doesn't change just because I believe he should only get time served. That don't change the past and his decisions that led to the death of one of the greatest rappers, to ever grace this earth, Christopher Wallace. So that, two things can be true. And I think in this case, yeah, Gene can still speak on that because that's what his basis was on. It was never on any of this stuff. He don't even really speak about this stuff.
Yeah, I'm gonna reference something I said on Wednesday as well because somebody made a similar comment. I think y'all misunderstanding Gene's perspective in all this. Gene has spoke about his relationship with Puff, which dates back a very long time. Obviously, he knew Puff before the world knew Puff. Mm-hmm. He's always talked about, at least in sit downs that we've had, he's always talked about that at one point he viewed Puff like a little brother. And I think what people forget with the Gene situation is when everything happened and Puff left Cali and then left everybody back in Cali and they had to find their way back to New York, Puff wasn't the one answering questions and answering phone calls. Gene was. Everybody else was. Everybody else had to pick up the pieces for what took place. And Gene has told us on several occasions that the toughest conversations he ever had in his life was when he had to have a conversation with Miss Wallace after her son was murdered. And so Gene's frustration with Puff, like you said, goes back to the arrogance that was displayed by Puff while he was out in Cali. The fact that you would put us in that predicament. The fact that you would, that then you would leave California and leave it up to us to pick up the pieces as we come back home. Like, if you guys aren't familiar, like really, really do your research on what survivor's remorse is. Because I'm sure there was a lot of people that was part of the entourage that night that felt like, why Big died? Why he was the only one? Why didn't I get shot? Why didn't I do more? Gene's had to live with that for over 30 years now. Yeah. And that's something that unless you've experienced it, unless that's a trauma that you know well, you can't really speak on. So to say, oh, Gene should have kept his mouth shut on what? On speaking of real life experience that he dealt with? Yeah.
He was
know what I'm saying?
I tell you, Gene does not speak on all this stuff unless he's in an actual interview and either Art or Cam Capone or one of these guys is asking him about those things. Those are not the things that Gene has been speaking on. Those are not the issues that he has with Puff. So no, that's when you guys are asking about shit, he closes his mouth. And I see Scoop Poop up here says the same thing. Should Gene at this point never talk about Puff again? No, that doesn't change the fact that decisions
one has nothing to do with the other though.
Yeah, decisions that Puff made led to the death of the notorious B.I.G. Because when Gene kept telling Puff that they needed extra security, they didn't need to be in Cali at the time, but they were in Cali. It was too hot. That when they got out into Cali during that week, and Puff didn't want to let Big go to London. Because if Puff had went to London, he wouldn't have. Now I'm not saying he wouldn't have died, because we all got to meet our maker one day. But it would not have been right then in that moment. So Gene's gripe with Puff is the decisions that he made that ultimately led to the death of the notorious Biggie Smalls. Remember, most of the stuff that we're talking about in the Freako, all of that stuff is post Gene deal. That's the thing that people don't even realize, just because Gene is so much in the media now. But a lot of that stuff that went on is post Gene deal.
Yeah,
that's after 2002. This is after the J-Lo stuff. This is after that stuff. Gene wasn't even working with Puff during most of the stuff that was going on.
Yeah, like I said, one has nothing to do with the other. Gene has told his story and given his perspective on his time with Puff and with Bad Boy. Mm-hmm. Like we said, it wasn't like it was rooted in his experience and what he had to deal with coming out of that situation. So I think we're confusing the two. For people to say, oh, he should never speak on Puff again. I mean, he was talking about Puff before these charges came up. He wasn't talking about Puff freak off. He was talking about Puff as a businessman. He was talking about Puff,
Yeah.
the interactions they had and where their friendship went, because they were friends at one point. You know what I'm saying? But he's also highlighted, as somebody who was close to Puff, and we started off as friends, he left me high and dry in multiple situations. So that's what Gene spoke on. I don't think, again, one has nothing to do with the other.
Yeah. School Poop says, so does Gene want a public "I'm sorry" from Puff? Would that be great for Gene's mental? No. Not that.
I don't think I don't think he wants a public apology.
Yeah.
I think it was a time with this is my perspective. I don't want to sound like I'm speaking for Gene. My perspective on it, Gene has always wanted Puff to take the accountability for what took place.
Yes.
Gene, because again, unless any of our supporters could speak on what it's like to speak to a dead son's mother, y'all cannot criticize Gene for how he feels.
Yeah.
Unless you've had to look a dead son's mother in the eye and have to explain his last moments and why there wasn't security in that car and why the other car was able to get through the light, but Big didn't. Yeah, we can't criticize Gene for that, bro.
Yeah.
There's no way. Like, let's not be that cynical about it and make it seem like, oh, Gene should just get over it, bro. He was with Puff in his last moments of life.
Yeah.
Like the same way you watch the movie and you see how everybody, they playing Hypnotized in the club and everybody's like, Big, you did it again, man. You got another banger. And minutes later, he's dead. And if you're Gene, you're replaying the whole moment of those last moments in the club, waiting for the car, right? Setting up the cars. Hey, run these red lights. Let's get up out of here. And then to know within minutes, he's gone. And now as soon as you get back to New York, you got to have a sit down with his mother. I don't think we should criticize Gene for how he feels. He's more than right in feeling how he's had to deal with all this stuff for years. We don't even know the type of trauma that man has been holding on to.
Yeah, and we'll have Gene back on soon, so he can actually speak for himself and tell you guys. But again, I just want to make it clear to separate the post Freako, pre-Freako, okay? Because again, Gene was not there for a lot of the stuff that Puff was on trial for. He had already stopped working for Bad Boy at that point. So let's just be clear. His issue is about him not taking accountability for everything that went down in the Big situation. That has nothing to do with the Freako, because again, that was before Gene. That was after Gene's time with Bad Boy Records. All right. Now, with that being said, until we bring Gene on the show, we did about 30 minutes on the Diddy trial. We got to get to the sports talk right now.
Understandable though,
Listen, I'm not even mad because I knew we was gonna have to get to it because of our relationship with Gene Deal. So I knew it was gonna come up at one point. But I would like to dedicate a full show while we sit down with Gene to those questions so that he can actually speak for himself, since we have that relationship with Gene and we can have him come up here. All right. So with that being said, Summer League basketball is in full effect. Ron Charles says, do we expect Bronny James to crack the Lakers rotation this season? I can't say just yet because I don't believe the roster is filled out to where it's going to be filled out anyway. But I mean, he's still going to be probably the 12th, 13th man off the bench. He's got a lot more improvement to go. And this is not to say, because I have seen progression with Bronny from when he first got into the league to where he is at now. So I've seen some progression, but I don't know about cracking the rotation just yet because, again, like I said, one, they haven't even finished putting the roster together, and two, he's still at the back end of that lineup.
Yeah, I don't think the roster is complete. They're going to try to find another wing to take the minutes that they are losing from Dorian Finney-Smith. And let's be honest, I think he will progress. I expect Bronny to be a little better. I mean, you spent, the last year and a half in the organization working out with the pros and the trainers, so you're going to be better. But if Bronny's a consistent part of your rotation, you're probably not as good as you think, because I don't think he's ready to be that level of contributor just yet.
Yeah.
So, again, they wanted Dorian Finney-Smith back. I think they will still try to explore ways to find another 3-and-D guy to fit that role. But you figure the top three guys obviously are Luka, Braun, and DeAndre Ayton. Reeves is like the fourth best guy on the team. They still got Hachimura on the team. They still got Jackson Hayes on the team. So that's 6. They're probably looking for two more guys to fill out their rotation. I don't think Bronny, if they expect to be as good as they think they're going to be, Bronny's not going to be in their rotation.
Yeah, I agree. Halliburton to miss the entire 2025-2026 season, confirmed by Kevin Pritchard. Yes, I read that this morning. And although I got a fake vendetta against Tyrese Halliburton just because the New York and we didn't respect the antics at the Garden, my thing, and Eric, I've said this before, I want my team to kick your team's ass when they at full strength because I don't want to give you no excuses as to why y'all lost to me. So I want you to have your best roster when we play. So it is unfortunate that he has to miss the entire season. I will say this: I know from the mental and the competitive standpoint, I know that Tyrese Halliburton can go into this season where he's going to be doing a lot of rehab and know I put it all on the line in the finals, and I literally was riding till the wheels fell off, and his wheels fell off in game 7, after hitting a couple of big shots, and then obviously the injury takes him out of that game. But at least if he had to, you had to miss a year, at least he could say, you know what, I did everything I could to help us win the championship. Ultimately, we didn't get the job done, and I do wind up getting hurt. But it wasn't a situation where I didn't go in and I could have played. So now I'm thinking, well, if I did this, would we have won? And you're dealing with a whole bunch of stuff. Now you can just focus on recovery, get strong, get healthy, and try to come back and have a good career.
Right. Yeah, it's unfortunate, but again, the timing of the injury so bad. Even if he were to get back to be cleared to play, he probably wouldn't even be ready to play until like April or May, and that's just way too late in the season to come back and try to be effective, right? You need more time. So the best case for him is to sit out, take his time rehabbing, and then focus on 26, 27.
Now, my next question is, because I'm not sure, does Indiana have their own picks? Because now there's no Miles Turner, there's no Tyrese Halliburton.
They do. They got their own pick back. It was a trade that they made actually during the playoffs. So they have the pick back.
Okay.
I don't expect them to tank though. I think Rick Carlisle,
just based off the roster, I mean, you still have Siakam, Nembhard, and those guys, but despite how poorly Miles Turner played in the NBA Finals, he's still a big part of what Indiana can do and what it and them getting as far as they got. And then obviously we know what Tyrese Halliburton is to that team. So they're probably going to be in the bottom half of the Eastern Conference if they're even in that playing range. I don't even know if without those two guys, they'll still even be in the playing range.
I think they'll be in the playing range because some of the teams at the bottom of the East are just really, really bad.
I mean, and there's a lot of injuries too to start. So
and like I said, Rick Carlisle is a top tier coach. We know that. So Rick Carlisle, they're not just going to be out there stinking it up every night. He's going to keep them competitive. I think there's a lot of pride with that team. There'll be a lot of opportunities, but in terms of like them being anywhere near or as close to what they've been the last 2 years, no, they're not. They're missing their best player, and Miles Turner might have been their third best player on the team. So you're missing two significant pieces from a team that not only was in the NBA Finals this year, but was in the Eastern Conference Finals last year.
I'm sorry, y'all the supporters, y'all be having these. Let me just throw this up here. Pooh says, Trip, I was tripping. I didn't know y'all have never met Will Gordon in person. Well, I haven't met Will Gordon in person.
I haven't either.
Oh, yeah, you never? Oh, my goodness.
We talked about this. Like I said, that Will and I were, I'll say we were introduced, but it was really through a group chat. A good friend of mine kind of brought me into the sports group chat. And Will is the kind of like the main guy that had the group chat.
Yeah.
A lot of funny takes on the group chat. And then when I started doing the Sanchez show during COVID, I was like, yo, you know what? Like, I need somebody else to kind of bounce ideas off of. So you and I already have one show going. I'm like, I want to bring a different perspective in.
Yeah.
And the friend that brought me into the group chat was the one who was like, yo, Will might actually be, a perfect guy because he has these outrageous takes sometimes. Mm-hmm. And we kind of did like a quote unquote pilot episode. It went over really well. And then we just kind of figured it out from there. So But I know Will is going to be out here in Maryland. I think he told me in August. Will, you let me know if that's still the case. So we definitely got to link up. But yeah, me and Will have been recording now for 5 years. We never met in person.
Oh, that's crazy. And Pooh, hey, Mr. Gordon, Trip, I was on their show last week, and Will was getting all of my personal biz. Listen, that's between you and Will. I don't know about your personal biz. All I know is for the ladies that's in the sports system, when y'all be talking about y'all be doing all this cooking, stop playing with us if you're not sending us a plate. That's all I'm saying. Because last week Imani was cooking, so I know y'all be chefing it up. So y'all need to, y'all gonna have to, hold the fellas down on that good home cooking. But let me get back up to the top here. Shout out to Devontae Harris. He says Randy Moss names Mahomes, Allen, Lamar, Burrow in the top 4. Who is the 5th best NFL quarterback? First of all, let me say this. I'm moving Lamar ahead of Allen. I don't care. I got Lamar Jackson 2-time MVP ahead of but whatever. That's neither here nor there. But as far as the 5th best quarterback in football, oh man, that's geez.
I mean, that's easy.
Who else we got? Who you say?
I mean, that's Jalen Hurts.
Oh well,
I mean,
yeah,
I think
gotta go Jalen Hurts because I'm thinking what's one that got parental control set on the game in Washington. What's my man name?
Yeah, but Jaden Daniels not better than
Daniels. Let me see who else is there. I guess it would be Jalen Hurts. I don't think there's
I mean, the next tier of quarterback after that 4 is going to be Jalen Hurts, Justin Herbert, Jaden Daniels,
Love, maybe?
Jordan Love. Jordan Love is, I think, just beneath them. I think that next tier, like I said, is Hurts, Herbert, and Daniels.
Yeah, I think so.
And then you got, of course, you got veterans like Stafford, but I think again, those are the next 3 guys that you would have to name. And I think you can make a serious case that Jalen Hurts might even be able to crack the top 4. When you consider Jalen Hurts been in more Super Bowls than Allen, Lamar, and Burrow combined.
Yeah.
He obviously has a Super Bowl. He's got more playoff wins than all 3. Does he have more than Allen? I don't know if he has more playoff wins than Allen, but I know he has more playoff wins than Lamar and Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
So I mean, you could make a strong case that Jalen Hurts probably should be in the top 3, top 4. But he's definitely, if that's Randy Moss's list, I respect Randy Moss. Number 5, without a doubt, has to be Jalen Hurts.
Okay. Randy Moss also said he was the greatest wide receiver of all time. Now, I don't have an issue with him saying that because I was a Randy Moss fan and I watched his career from beginning to end, and you're supposed to feel like you are that guy. But I will say this: there's no better resume at wide receiver than Jerry Rice. Now, if we want to talk about physical attributes, that's something different, and you can argue who's better. There's a couple of guys you could throw in there. Maybe you might want to throw T.O. in there. You might want to throw Calvin Johnson Jr. in there. There's a couple of guys that you can throw in there. But as far as resume goes, there is no wide receiver with a resume that is better than Jerry Rice.
Yeah, I think no resume better than Jerry Rice. I think just in terms of physical skills, Randy Moss he was the ultimate cheat code at receiver. Yes. And so I agree with that part of it. But when you talk resume, it's Jerry Rice.
Yeah. So that's why I said we gotta differentiate. When you say I'm the best, are you just talking physical attributes and what you're able to do on the field, or are we talking about resume? Because now it's 2 different categories altogether, and you could have 2 completely different people as the best if that's the case.
Correct.
All right. Steelers acquired Jalen Ramsey, Jonnu Smith, and they sent Minka to Miami. I mean, Steelers needed some pieces. I guess they definitely needed to upgrade the tight end. But you also sending away one of the best safeties in the game in Minka Fitzpatrick. So, I don't know how much of an improvement this trade is for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Is my thing.
I just don't understand I don't understand what the Pittsburgh Steelers are trying to build here, because they still have a quarterback that has been on the downside for at least the last 3 seasons. They decided not to draft Shador. They decided not to draft Milroe. There were some guys available, like I said, that you could have brought in and developed. And instead, they're using their assets to go get Jalen Ramsey and Darius Slay and add more cornerbacks.
Yeah.
So I just don't understand the direction they're trying to go. Jalen Ramsey is still a very good high-level cornerback. But if you're telling me that you expect to win every week 17-16, having Jalen Ramsey does nothing for you. I just don't see how they scoring points. Aaron Rodgers hasn't been good for at least 3 years.
And we don't know. It's not like we saw him in training camp. We saw something that said he's going to be back.
By the way, he delayed signing with them so that he could go on his annual mushroom trip where he gets high for a week. So I don't understand what the direction is with the Steelers. Their offensive line still isn't really good. I don't know if they're going to be better running the ball than they were last year. So, yeah, I just don't see it.
Collusion between Rosenhaus and the Dolphins and Giants. Miami trades John. All of a sudden, Waller retires and is traded to Miami. I mean, I don't even know what Waller has left in the tank because it's not like that last year with the Giants. He was the beast that he was when he played for the Raiders. So I don't know what he's even have, if anything. And another year older, you're a year removed from the game. So I don't know how much of a threat that's going to be for the Miami Dolphins.
I don't think there was no collusion. And now, granted, Drew Rosenhaus does have ties to the Dolphin organization. He's been an agent for a long time. He's got a lot of players over there. But the reason I say there's no collusion, in order for it to be collusion, that means all teams would have been on board for this move. First of all, nobody cares about Jonnu Smith or Darren Waller enough to put together a conspiracy of the NFL. Secondly, the Giants didn't have to trade Darren Waller. If they said, hey, no, he wants to come back and we're gonna keep him, they could have kept him.
If they felt he was about to be
if they felt
Darren Waller.
I'm gonna give you a scenario, right? A couple years ago, when Gronkowski was coming out of retirement, right? The Patriots wanted him back, but they also felt like, he's been so banged up, he's hurt. If he wants to go, let him go. Now, again, the Patriots could have easily said, no, we're not letting you go because we know you want to go sign with Tom. But again, the team, that team and that locker room and that organization has the best feel for the players. They know Darren Waller. What value does Darren Waller have to the Giants? You just sat out a whole season. They're probably starting Jackson Dart. They're going to go with Russell Wilson with Jackson Dart waiting in the wing. He doesn't bring any value to what the Giants are trying to do at this point. So if you don't want to be there, no big deal. And like I said, collusion would mean the other teams were in cahoots to get Darren Waller to Miami. The other teams don't care about Darren Waller going to Miami. They could care less.
At all. Shout out to Pooh. Caitlin Clark has missed 10 or 11 games. I wonder in the WNBA with 44 games, her missing so many, will it take her out of the WNBA MVP race? Well, I'll say this: she can't win any. She can't miss any more games. That's for sure, because that's a fourth of the games right there in the season. So she's definitely gonna have to be on the floor. Obviously, All-Star is one thing because that's just the fans voting for the starters. But yeah, she definitely can't miss any more games. If she misses more games, and let's just say she was to get MVP, it's just like, come on now y'all trying to force Caitlin Clark, you know what I'm saying, on us, and it's just like, nah, I'm not with that. But like I said, if she comes back, she don't miss any more games. She balls out the second half, and she winds up getting it. Then hey, it is what it is.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the guidelines are in the WNBA in terms of how many games you can miss. But I guess if she's already at 11 games and they only play 44, you're at a quarter of the season.
Yeah, like, come on, you can't. There's no way.
Yeah, I don't.
You're telling me she missed 5 more games and you're going to get to give her the MVP? It's crazy.
Yeah, because if she missed 5, even 10 more games, and you're talking about you missed half the season, there's no way they would even vote for her. I think she would take herself out the mix.
Now the fans might still do it, but the all of the MVP voters, I doubt that will be the case because then you start really losing credibility.
Right.
All right. Tyson says, Kelsey on Hunter. Teams will try to make his day miserable. Just run deep. First of all, pause at him all day. Why wouldn't you attack him? I mean,
Kelsey's right though.
yeah, obviously you got to attack him, but I do also feel like he is gonna be one of them ones. So just like you're gonna attack him, I think he gonna put a lot of work in out there, and I'm not gonna say surprise a lot of people because people already know what Travis Hunter is capable of. But he is very good at both wide receiver and playing cornerback. So yeah, obviously I think it's gonna be days where somebody has his number, but there's gonna be days where he shuts some cats down, some of your favorite receivers down.
So I think what Kelsey's referencing though is if you attack him defensively, you kind of limit what he starts to do offensively, right? Because if you're running deep patterns at him consistently and he's all over the field chasing receivers, now instead of him maybe playing 25 to 30 snaps on offense, he might only play 10 to 15 snaps. So it's kind of like the dual effect that it can have, where it's like, yeah, we're going to attack him, we're going to make him a focal point of somebody we want to go after, and in turn, it also kind of takes him off the field on the other side of things. So, but Travis Kelsey's right. Rookie cornerbacks get targeted. We know that. It doesn't matter how good you are coming into the league. You're a rookie cornerback. You're going to get targeted. They're going to test you right away. They're going to see if you're ready to handle the elite level receivers of the NFL. I think Travis is going to be fine. He's going to be a very good player, I think, very early on. I don't know if the numbers are going to reflect it because, a cornerback could be really good and only have 1 or 2 interceptions that year. You may not get a lot of interceptions.
But maybe you got pass deflections, or they just
right. Oh. Yeah, you get pass deflections, and again, you're talking about the quarterback position. These are not only the best of the best, but these are the accuracy on most of these quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. They know where to put the ball, where that it's either an incompletion or a catch. So I don't think he's going to get as many interceptions as people may like to see him get, but I still think he's going to be a very effective player right out the gates.
Facts. Shout out to Ty Jefferson. I saw that comment down. I'm gonna post it up a little bit later, but I just wanted to shout you out. Appreciate that comment. Hoop Baller Scoop says Paolo agrees to 5-year max rookie contract that could reach $287 million. Shout out to my Blue Devils, man. Duke in the house. Duke is in the house, boy. Shout out to my guy Paolo. Eric, we talk about this all the time. We love when guys get bag, get that money. Create generational wealth for you and your family for decades to come. So we love that. Congratulations to that young brother Paolo. He has shown and proven he is all-star now. He's a legitimate all-star now. Orlando is a legitimate playoff contender now with him as their best player, and he deserves every dollar of that $287 million. And I hope he gets it all.
Yeah, he's worthy of it. I think it's a great sign for their organization. Obviously, they made the trade for Desmond Bain recently, so now you get your star player on a new extension, and you hope to build something special over the next couple of years.
Exactly. All right, Tyson says more likely Lamar wins the Super Bowl or another MVP. Lamar, the game has gotten a lot easier for me. He's going to be in the running for MVP, I feel like, for the next 5 years, at least, just because he's a dual threat quarterback who is not just your regular dual threat quarterback. He's running for 600, 700, 800 yards, as well as passing the football. So he's always going to be in the running. As a Ravens fans, I would hope that the Super Bowl comes before the next MVP. Even though, listen, if you can get an MVP and get the Super Bowl in the same year, I'm definitely for that. But personally, I would love for it to be the championship first, because you gotta have that standpoint. Even though the 2 MVPs with the career he's having, he's gonna be a first ballot Hall of Famer. But you got to put the stamp on that thing. You got to get that Super Bowl championship. You got to get your Super Bowl MVP. So that's what I want for Lamar Jackson. But again, he could just as easily get a 3rd MVP.
Yeah, I think just for the sake of this question and this conversation, it's more likely he wins a Super Bowl before another MVP. as a 2-time MVP winner, but he hasn't played in the Super Bowl, there's going to be voter fatigue. I think there's going to be voters who are very cautious of giving him another MVP until he proves he can at least get to a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Again, you look around the league and you look at the guys who have more than 2 MVPs, they had to get to another Super Bowl. Peyton Manning has struggled to get to that other MVP without getting to a Super Bowl.
Yes.
Same thing happened with Steve Young. Same thing happened with Brett Favre. Like, you got to get there, and then the voters kind of side with you again. So I think more likely he wins a Super Bowl before he wins another MVP.
Yep, I agree. Well, I need to play that Shane O'Mac theme song. Must be the money, because they giving out the bag right now. Congratulations, Devin Booker, $321.5 million. Whoo! That's sad when you say it. It gives you shivers in your spine. Good Lord! Congratulations, my brother. We love that for you, Devin Booker.
Yeah, man. Congratulations, well deserved. Hopefully, ownership in that front office starts doing the right thing and building something substantial around him. Exactly.
I agree with that with what you just said, Eric. My main man, Hoopballer Scoop, who is always on the check-in. Appreciate you, my brother, for that. Paul Pierce, or should we say Mr. Delusional, I was probably the best pure scorer in the history of the game. Is this cat? Paul could score that thing, but is he even top 10? And who's the best pure scorer you've seen with your own eyes? Michael Jordan was for me, for sure, with Kobe Durant right after. All right, let me say this, okay? When I think about pure scorers, Paul Pierce don't even come in. Like, it's not even a thought in my mind that says, okay, Paul Pierce, pure scorer. This doesn't. When I think about pure scorers, I think about MJ. I think about, and I'm just talking about guys that I've actually seen play. I'm not even talking about all time. But I think about MJ. I think about Kobe. I think about Kevin Durant. I think about Kyrie Irving. Who else? I think about Carmelo Anthony. When I think about just pure scorers, Paul Pierce doesn't. I think about Dwayne Wade, actually, when I think about pure scorers. That's another one I think about. And Paul Pierce is not that. When I think about pure scorers, Paul Pierce's name doesn't come up in the conversation. That's definitely Cat, but we know from previous experiences that Paul Pierce is delusional, because he also feels that he's had a better career than Dwayne Wade. He thinks he's better than Brown, even though recently he actually gave Ross props. But there's a lot of cap when it comes to Paul Pierce. So yeah, no, I'm sorry. And no, he ain't top 10 in nothing. I don't know what you don't even mention top 10 and Paul Pierce in the same breath, because there ain't nothing in that. That's no. Sorry.
Paul Pierce was an amazing player, but Paul Pierce has really created this narrative now that Paul Pierce, if you let him tell it, he was top 3 in MVP voting every year. He talks about himself as if he was the top guy in the sport for all these years. He was very good. But in terms of pure scorers, Will Gordon said Carmelo, and I agree. Melo, in my opinion, Melo is the pure scorer I've ever seen that could do it on all 3 levels, and then did it so versatile with whether it was bully ball, whether it was finesse. Kevin Durant's in that same type of conversation. The only difference between Melo and Durant is Durant never possessed like the physical power that Melo did. Melo could back you down in the paint and could bully guys if they were too small. And then if you were strong enough, then he just would finesse you to death. And it was just too many moves. But Kobe, Mike is in the conversation. Obviously, like we said, Melo, Durant, Tracy McGrady got to be in the conversation. It's just pure scorers.
Yes, T-Mac is definitely in the conversation.
You know what I'm saying? There's so many guys I would put ahead of Paul Pierce. I think if we talking just pure scorers, Joe Johnson to me was a better pure scorer.
Oh my ISO Joe?
Yeah, was a better pure scorer than Paul Pierce.
Yeah.
So no, I'm not putting Paul Pierce in top 10.
Is Ray Allen a better pure scorer than Paul Pierce?
Yeah, and a lot of people forget how good young Ray Allen was.
Okay,
go look at his go look at his highlights with the Seattle SuperSonics. Mm-hmm. Go look at his highlights with Milwaukee. Like Paul Pierce was not better than those guys. Paul Pierce was very, very good. High basketball IQ. He wasn't better than those guys.
Yeah. No, not at all. Well, I said Paul Pierce he's never been the guy in the league. Like I don't know. Was there ever a time where he was top 5 in the league?
That's why I say Paul Pierce talks about himself as if he was in an MVP conversation every year.
Yeah, I'm just like I don't even remember you being top 5 in your career. So I don't, no disrespect, but we just got to call a spade, and we can't be delusional. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Let's go to Scoop Hoop. Scoop Hoop says, what would be a great place for Chris Paul? I'm hearing the Clippers want both Beal and Paul. Would they be a great pickup? Suns working on a buyout with Beal. I'll tell you one thing, this is the craziest buyout season we've ever had, because to have Ayton fully bought out, damn near fully bought out, to have Dame fully bought out, and Bradley Beal about to be damn near fully bought out with years left on these contracts is crazy in itself. The best fit for Chris Paul, though, I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing Chris Paul on the Bucks. I think they could make that work on the Bucks. I think that one would be good. I mean, I guess you could fit him. I mean, you could fit him in most places, but I think I wouldn't mind seeing him with the Bucks. I mean, he was really good with Phoenix. Obviously, that roster is a little bit different now. But I think any team where they can run a good pick and roll, I think Chris Paul will excel. So that's why I say Milwaukee, because I think him and Giannis could have a nice little 1-2 punch with the pick and roll.
I think, yeah, schematically, him in the pick and roll there, and then Bounce Turner's ability to pick and pop works. But Chris Paul's not at a point in his career where could be trusted to play, 30, 35 minutes. And that's what the Bucks need. Yeah, that's why I think the Clippers move makes the most sense. Because off that bench, he'll get the opportunity to play spot minutes and still be Chris Paul and do all the things he does in terms of like navigating a team without the pressure of having to play 30 minutes a night. So I like the Clippers situation. Also, it's a great head coach there in Ty Lue. So I like that situation the best. Milwaukee makes some sense. I think Denver could be interesting, especially with the moves they made now to add a veteran like Chris Paul to that mix. There isn't really a team in the East that I like for them. Yeah, there really isn't a slot in the East. I think it's probably looking at teams in the West.
The thing with the East is because of all of these major injuries to the stars, it's kind of like I don't even know until we actually see some of these teams play without their superstars. Because you got to think, right? You got no Tatum. Obviously, I mean Dame was released by the Bucks, but you would have had no Dame. You got no Halliburton. Like the injuries to these key guys in the conference is crazy.
The crazy thing is through the injuries, right? So like we knew the Knicks and Cleveland were going to be in a mix next year, right? They were two of the top 4 teams this year, so you expected them to be in a mix. But because of all the injuries, the third best team right now is probably between Atlanta and Orlando, and those were 2 playing teams last year.
Maybe even Detroit.
Yeah, and Detroit's taking a hit though. I don't think they're going to lose Malik Beasley with this gambling scandal, and they lose Tim Hardaway Jr. Yes, like they lost 2 key pieces to that team that they really have to fix. Yeah, 2 veteran pieces. You look at the minutes those guys were playing and how much they were relying on those guys to score for them. They haven't really been able to find that production yet. So I'm interested to see how they're able to put it together, because defensively they're still very good, but offensively I don't know if they have enough around Cade to be better than they were last year. So to me, I think what Atlanta's done with their roster is really good. I think what Orlando's done is really good. Those might be, after New York and Cleveland, Orlando and Atlanta might be the next 2 best teams. So in cases like that, like I said, you look at the East, it's like there really ain't many attractive landing spots for Chris Paul. Staying out West might be the best one.
Yeah. Paul. He was responding to the interview that not interview, but I guess the podcast with Nash and Braun, and I forget who was the third person, but that was in response to that. Devontae, we're gonna get to that question in a minute about the interviews. I see you down there. Let me just get through the rest of these NBA questions, and then we're gonna get to that one. Let me go back up to this. Okay, here we go. Ty Jefferson, Ty Lue, since he has been with the Clippers, what is his overall grade? B plus maybe. I can't say A because I don't think they've advanced in the playoffs under Ty Lue? Have they? No, they
No,
made out the first. They made out the first round one, but they haven't made it past the second round.
No, they did. They went to the Western Conference Finals a couple years ago when they lost to Denver.
Oh, that was under Ty Lue. Okay, so
Yeah,
I'll give him a B plus then.
I give him an A just because the injuries has really been what's held them back. That year that they lost to Denver in the Western Conference Finals, that was the same year that Kawhi got hurt in the second round. That probably was like Paul George's best year with them too, because Paul George played really well in those playoffs.
Yeah.
That then he started calling himself Playoff P again.
Yeah, I remember.
But no, that Ty Lue, I think when you consider how he's had to navigate the injuries there, I think he's done a really, really good job. And that's not an easy thing to do when they had all their hopes and dreams tied into Kawhi and Paul George, and they had trouble keeping those guys on the court together. And consistently, he's kept them in the playoffs. Last year, they had a great first-round series that they lost in 7 games. Like I said, 2 years ago, they were in the West Conference Finals. So I think Ty Lue is a top-tier head coach. I give him an A.
Okay. And Ty says Tua deserves to be in the top 100. He ranks number 91 in the 2025 list. Yeah, he definitely deserves to be in the top 100. I mean, when he's healthy, he's putting up MVP-esque numbers when he's been healthy. Like those stretches where he's been able to play 6, 7, 8 games without going out with a concussion, he's actually like really balling, and he's a quarterback. So yeah, he definitely deserves to be in the top 100. As far as where, I'd probably, just because of the injuries, I'd probably say from like 75 to 100 in that range somewhere. But he definitely deserves to be in the top 100.
Yeah, I mean, you figure Tua is probably a top 20 quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're top 20 in your position, you're probably a top 100 player. I guess 91 is pretty accurate. Again, the injuries have been the biggest deterrent. He hasn't had much team success. Like they don't have playoff victories. They don't have a playoff run. But, under Mike McDaniels, when he's been healthy, he's put up really big numbers. So top 100, yeah. I mean, it's tough to dissect the whole top 100 list because then it's also about preference. Do you prefer more defensive players than offensive players?
Exactly.
Are you saying the top 40 receivers should all be in the top 100? So it's subjective. 91, I think. That ain't saying if you're 91 in the top 100, it ain't much debate we can make on that.
Shout out to Will Gordon. What it do, baby? All right, and Scoop. Oh wait, hold on, my bad. We did that one. Let me go to this next one. Ron, he is a G League. Oh, this is about Bronny. Okay. Let me see. Hold on. Okay. Ron says, why do we sit here and act like the Lakers gonna be this title contender? Just shaking. What? Who said there was gonna be a title?
I was just about to say. I saw when Ron posted this, and I shook my head. Then Ron, we never said they was title contenders.
Nobody said that.
My exact words were, if they want to be as good as they think they're going to be, then Bronny cannot be part of their rotation. That's what I said. I never said title contenders. And I think when we mentioned the best teams in the West last week, we didn't mention the Lakers in the top 5, top 6.
We didn't even talk. When we mentioned the best teams, we talked about OKC.
We talked OKC, Houston.
That's what we were talking about.
We said Denver, right? We talked about Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember. Again, I just named 14. We never talked about the Lakers in that range.
Yes, it is what it is. I just want us to talk about the Lakers. I get it.
It must
at this point. Ron also says Ace Bailey plays tonight at 9 p.m. on NBA TV. Oh, I am interested. I do want to see him catch a little bit of rec. I know it's just summer league, obviously. But I would like to see him play, especially after everything that went down on draft night. I hope he comes out and balls out, man.
I do too. He didn't shoot the ball too well in the first summer league game, but I hope he gets a little more comfortable. And we've seen guys struggling in summer league. It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah. Tyson says Dame Lillard is open to Boston and has a close relationship with Tatum. Lillard would be able to rehab his Achilles with Tatum. And that would be the dumbest thing in the world for Dame to sign with the Boston Celtics. Yeah. Just because we know they're not winning the championship no time soon. Because you're going to miss Tatum for damn near the whole year. They don't have Porzingis anymore, who was a big part of that of that championship. There's no more Al Horford who's going to become a free agent now. Like that team is not the same Boston Celtics team. So it wouldn't make sense for Dame to sign, even though I know he's gonna. I know they say out till March, April, but him coming back in March, April is not gonna help Boston get to the championship this year or even win a championship this year. So if I'm Dame, the smart play is to go to a team where one, obviously you're gonna have to rehab with any team, but that you're able to, that they're gonna be a legitimate contender where you being there and coming back as late as you are, you could actually contribute to a championship run.
Yeah, wherever Dame signs, this might only be a 1 or 2 year deal. So I would not waste my time in Boston. And I don't mean that, it's like that they're not a quality franchise. It's just a situation where Tatum, again, is going to be out for a very long time. And even when he comes back, you've got to figure it's going to take him a little time to get to the Jason Tatum level that we were used to. Also, from what I've read and heard, Dame is really open to going back home to the West Coast so that he could rehab closer to home and see his kids more often. So I think a West Coast team is probably more in play, whether it's the Lakers, Clippers, Golden State, one of those teams out there, possibly, Houston or Denver situation where he could rehab and still be closer to home, get back and forth. So to me, Boston doesn't make much sense. If I'm Dame, I want to go to a place where the rest of your roster is already set and I can just rehab and try to come back and just be a part of that team. Not I'm rehabbing with your star player and then I'm hoping that he can get us over the top. Also, as you guys already seen, Boston is kind of in cost-cutting mode. I don't know how much money they want to really invest in this roster beyond this season as well. So if I'm Dame, why would I want to go there when I just seen you guys try to dump salary this offseason and you might be in that same mode again next year?
Yeah, exactly. The other team I saw was Miami, but it's just like it doesn't make sense to go to Miami. You know what I'm saying, when they're not even nowhere near playoff contention at this point. I don't even know if they're gonna be a good 5 seed in the Eastern Conference, and that's with all of the injuries, just because of how that stuff has been shaken up.
I just feel like if he goes to Miami, that's more about lifestyle. There's no way you telling me you're going to Miami to try to win. You're going there for the lifestyle. I
mean, I get it because I would go to Miami if it was me. You know what I'm saying? But that's
right, lifestyle.
Yeah, that's
what I'm saying.
Different thing. I like some things in Miami. Had a little fun down there last time. But let me go to this next comment right here. Shout out to Todd Jefferson again. I told you we was gonna get to this one. Todd says, I'm pretty much been watching you guys a few weeks, but I watched A Butter's interview, and I love how they were not shy about asking the tough questions. And I love the interview with Max Pierce. Big shout out to Max Pierce. Y'all know he just got married not too long ago. That's the 2-time Ballin' for Peace dunk contest champion, playing for the Harlem Globetrotters. And A Butter, Rucker Park legend. Big shout out to A Butter. Both of those guys are legends in their own right.
Shout out to A, because I always give him a lot of respect. We basically, for lack of a better word, we ran down on him at Rucker, and he gave us a quick interview there. And then came on the show and then did it here as well. So, he showed us a lot.
I think over 2 hours on that.
Yeah, we did like 2 hours. Like I said, we did a quick little interview at Rucker during the ceremony and the renaming of the park that time. And then we did the joint on here. So shout out to him. He definitely showed us a lot of love.
Exactly. Will says NBA is adding 2 teams. This isn't a part of the expansion. Yeah, I did see that. I mean, listen, I guess the NBA is doing well if they added new franchises. I know people were saying the ratings was down, but that Game 7 I think was like the highest rated Game 7 in the finals in some years. But I guess the NBA is doing well. They added new teams. Let me go to. Okay, Pooh says, I seen some dude named Ben McLemore was found guilty of rape. Y'all know about this story?
Ooh,
yes.
That's crazy. She said some dude named Ben McLemore.
Yeah. Ben McLemore definitely was in the league. I think he played for the Kings at one point. He's from the same town as Gene is in St. Louis.
Ben McLemore played at Kansas. High-level recruit. I think he was 5-star coming out of high school. Super talented coming out of Kansas. The game just never quite translated to the NBA. And then now you hear about this. just a terrible, terrible decision dropping Macklemore.
Unfortunate.
Yeah.
Right. Imani says, what's y'all thoughts on Drake's new song, Taking Shots at Braun and Others? Drake got to give it up. It's over. Like, he's still Drake, but it's like, bruh, you lost. Like, just take the L and move on. Like, you're doing too much now to try. Like, it's, bruh, just let it go. Okay, there's nothing you can say to Braun. That man is a billionaire. Let it go. LIG it, Reggie. That's it at this point.
Yeah.
That's all I can say, bro. Will said the best pure scorer is Melo. That's his opinion. I told you I added Melo to the list up there.
Yeah, Melo. Like I said, I like Melo in that same regard as well.
Yeah, I'm not mad at that. Devontae Harris says to you both, y'all have interviewed a lot of people. Give me your top 5 interviews in terms of maybe most enjoyable. All right, so my top 5, Anthony Mason is number 1. That's just because that was his last TV interview before he passed. I mean, it was just a dope interview anyway, but that was his last TV interview. Second would be Deontay Wilder, because that's us driving all the way down to Alabama for that one. Let's see. Third, I'm gonna put up Iran Barkley. We had him a couple of times on the show. That's just a legend in the sport of boxing, so I got to throw Iran Barkley up there. Fourth, I'm gonna say, you know what? This is actually because I actually didn't do the interview, but I'm gonna say the Kim Hampton interview when we had her from WNBA from New York Liberty.
Mm-hmm.
I put her up there as 4, and then 5 for me. I'm gonna say is shout out to the entire cast of Respect Life. Rest in peace, Boom P. That was probably my favorite in-studio interview, and that was me and like 10 of the cast members by myself. So that one would, for me, those are my top 5.
I'm gonna say Al Harrington.
Yeah, Al Harrington was a good one too.
Yeah, if y'all haven't, go back and check it out. We had got actually Al Harrington during when he was doing the press run for Viola, his brand, his cannabis brand. And I thought it was super dope because he got very personal. He talked about why he named the Viola. He talked about his experience with his grandmother in cannabis and that kind of sparking his interest in going into that field. So I like that interview a lot. And even looking back on it, I still feel like we left a lot of questions on the table because we went into it thinking we were going to talk more sports than we did, and we ended up talking more personal than we did. So it was a lot of stuff that we did, like I said, didn't even get to like speak to him on. So Al Harrington, I think Raheem Brock was dope because, again, he spoke very candid. He was very personal, even got a little emotional during the conversation, which I thought was, again, overall great conversation. What's some other ones that we had that was really, really good? Those are the 2 that stand out the most. Gene, I think, man, we've had so many great ones with Gene. I'll say Gene in general. Yeah, I'll say Gene. I can't hate you. I'll say Gene in general.
Yeah,
but we've had so many with Gene.
Yeah.
Who else, bro?
Oh, you know what? I got to show some love. Shout out to my little sis Don Shay. I always love when we had
Don Shay on. Yeah, we had Don Shay on a couple of times. I'm trying to think who else, man. Because we've done so many, and I'm trying to think. I was really trying to think of stuff we did in studio as opposed through online. But those are the ones that stick out the most, really.
Let me go to Imani, and she says, "Oh, and let me just really quick for Ty, the other part of his comment for us to asking the tough questions. Yeah, we don't let people come up here and we asking them cookie cutter questions. So we always gonna try to get down to the realness. So, all right. Imani says, Trip and Eric, I rewatched the show with the white guy actor. First of all, shout out to Nick Barada. When the questions got hot, you can see him looking up over like she not listening. I hope she not. Listen, God bless Nick, man. That's a good brother. We got to chop it up again at Ballin' for Peace, so he's down to come back on the show at some point as well. So again, big shout out to Nick. And we're gonna take this last one and we're gonna get to the final thought segment. Tyson says Keyshawn Johnson has a new show. He had Candace Parker and Cheryl Miller on together. One of the best interviews ever. Y'all have to check it out. Salute to Keyshawn for that. It was epic. Yeah. Salute to Keyshawn Johnson. That's one of my favorite wide receivers from his playing time. I'm definitely gonna check that interview out. Eric, I don't know if you've seen it as of yet.
I didn't. Somebody recommended it. I didn't get a chance to watch it yet, though.
All right, we're gonna check it out and we'll talk about it next week. Eric, give us a final thought, man.
As always, appreciate the supporters. Sanchez show will be live this Wednesday. Will Gordon and myself. We had a hat wars. He called me out, so we're gonna have the fitteds on. Y'all let us know who got the best fitted, along with some great topics. It ain't just gonna be sports, as you guys know. What else we got? Yeah, man. Again, we greatly appreciate you guys. The one thing I wanted to mention, I know we talk a lot of sports and we always try to support the women's sports. This Friday night, trust me, you will not be disappointed. On Netflix, they got Amanda Serrano versus Katie Taylor. This is the third time these two women are fighting. These are two of the best. I'm not going to call them best because we know who the best women's fighter is. But two of the best women's fighters in the game. Right. No. You see, I made sure. But two of the best. If you didn't watch their first fight back in 2022, it was actually the fight of the year. That's how good the fight was. They sold out Madison Square Garden. It was the most watched women's sporting event across any sport platform. Their first fight is the most watched women's sporting event, and it was a classic. That won fight of the year for 2022. They fought again last year. It was another great fight, which was another candidate for fight of the year. I expect Friday nights to be a classic. Support the women, and it's on Netflix. You ain't got to pay nothing extra. Just log into your Netflix and watch it. I promise you will not be disappointed on a Friday night.
Exactly. I'm gonna just say for my final thought, big shout out to all the supporters. Y'all keep those comments, questions coming in. I did drop the clip on Instagram of the Isaiah Jackson interview from Ballin' for Peace. We still gonna set that up to get him back on the live stream, but you can check that out on the Instagram right now on either at Real Fan Talk. I believe all of us. You can go to any of our Instagrams and look for that interview there. Also, make sure y'all ready the end of the month. The Ballin' for Peace celebrity baseball game is going down across from Yankee Stadium again. So if y'all gonna be in the Bronx at the end of the month, I'm gonna have the details for y'all next week with the exact date and a couple of the players. Y'all know last year we had a good time. We had who do we have from Dallas from the Cowboys? Kevin.
That was last year.
That's last year. 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
But yeah,
yeah.
On the show, but pull up is going down right across the street from Yankee Stadium in the Bronx. Ballin' for Peace, the baseball game, and then of course next month is going to be the celebrity football game. Ballin' for Peace. So the road to peace tour continues, and we got something for y'all coming up. Me and Eric cooking up some stuff for all of you streamers out there that play Madden and that play 2K. We're working on putting something together for y'all right now. My last final thought: if you got that NCAA 2K, if you got it early, I'm online with it. Come see me. Y'all notice it's up there. I've been playing this. I'm playing all day. I've been getting my play on for the new NCAA football. Y'all might want to get down on that right now. I'll post a picture of that up later on IG. But make sure you guys are following us on all our social media: Instagram, Twitter at Real Fan Talk, Facebook.com/Real Fans Real Talk, and of course subscribe to that YouTube channel. YouTube.com/For the Fans Productions. Also, if you're not in New York City and you can't watch us on TV on Verizon 43 from 8 to 9 p.m. on Thursdays, you can watch from anywhere in the world. Just go to the website, realfansrealtalk.com. Click that red button on the homepage, and you can watch from anywhere in the world. Also, make sure y'all subscribe to the two best podcasts moving. That's the Sanchez Show podcast and the Real Fans Real Talk podcast, streaming on all major platforms. With that being said, for myself, Trip Young, my brother, my co-host, Eric Sanchez, a.k.a. Legend in Two Games, we up out of here. Peace.
You done, right?
This is Deion Grant from the New York Giants, Super Bowl champ, and you're watching Real Fans Real Talk.
Live from the can. Vibe the can.
This is Real Fans real talk. We as real as you thought. Real fans.
Yo,